When athletes cross over in sport, it's always fascinating to watch. For many, it represents a new chapter, a chance to keep competing or even to keep winning. But in the case of the Devizes to Westminster canoe race, usually when athletes come across from other sports or from other disciplines within canoeing, it's all about taking part. For them, what's important is to be involved in this unique race. The motive is simply to survive, to get to the end of the course and to be able to say, I have completed the Devizes to Westminster. But when Ivan Lawler and Ben Brown declared an interest in the race, their motives were very different. Ivan, 6 times world marathon champion, a man who really knows the tactics of winning. And Ben, reigning world marathon champion, and a paddler whose star is really in the ascendant. But these guys weren't just going to be in it to win it. They had their sights set on a far more prestigious prize. They wanted to beat the 30-year-old course record.
It's Devizes to Westminster canoe race, 125 miles from Devizes in Wiltshire down to Westminster Bridge in London. It's an annual event. They tout it as the toughest canoe race in the world. It's been a long time since the record's been broken. It was set way back in 1979 by Tim Cornish and Brian Greenham. And we've got an opportunity this year to do it with a very good crew, or what I think is a very good crew. So we're going to have a punt at getting the record. I think in any sport, in any aspect of life, if opportunity arises, you're an idiot not to take that opportunity. So in terms of our crew, I'm racing with Ben Brown, who's pretty much top of the tree at the moment in marathon racing. Well, he is the top of the tree in marathon racing. His World Championships this year is right at the end of October, which is crazy late. It's normally August time. So he's able to do it this year. And normally guys of that sort of quality wouldn't be around to partner up with old-timers like me at this time of year. So it's a one-off opportunity to do it.
Ivan was tempted by it last year, and I kind of saw him almost have a go at it. He supported a lot of the crews and came back from that experience thinking, well, actually this might be something that I could do again. He's done it as a junior and he's promised that he'd never do it ever again. But I offered to do it with him when he made it clear that the record might be actually doable. Obviously it's river dependent, and it's dependent on whether we can actually paddle for 15-16 hours as well, which having never paddled for more than 4 hours before, still quite a mystery to me. And we thought, why not do it for a charity? Right to Play seemed to fit perfectly with what we want to represent and bring to the race.
As a key part of their training and preparation, Ben and Ivan are taking part in the Waterside Marathon Series, which are 4 races of ever-increasing distance in the run-up to the Devizes to Westminster itself. It's a chance to familiarise themselves with the Canoe and Avon Canal, being based as they are on the River Thames.
It's just learning the course and learning the pace that we need to put down, because it's very tempting. Having raced over sort of 2 hours, you pull quite hard for those 2 hours. You can't get away with that doing anything over 3 hours, 4 hours. Yeah, slowing down is difficult because you change your technique completely and the dynamic of the boat changes. There's less run on each stroke, you get less glide on each stroke, and the stroke rate doesn't change so much, it might even go up slightly. But I've got a habit of counting my strokes, every single stroke, all the way through a marathon race, and everybody's been telling me to try and get out of that habit before you start doing the Watersides and DWs, because you'll just end up measuring everything, and you just got to get on with it.
And that's exactly what they did. In fact, such was their pace in this first event that we only just managed to reach Hungerford Common in time to catch them portage. race finished in Newbury, and once again, we only just managed to get there in time. It was obvious that they were on form, but would they be happy with their performance?
We were going really well. Like, it took me about 40 minutes to get into it, and when I did get into it, we were really chonking along like quite nicely. And then we came into some traffic. It's the best word for it. It's the most polite word for it. Traffic, slow-moving traffic. And I had a couple of stressful portages, and then the paddling just never got like the same again after that.
Have you got a time yet?
About half a minute slow on the record, I think. But with the amount of grief we had at the last 20 minutes with other people, I think I'm pretty pleased with that. And it certainly wasn't our best day's paddling. So yeah, good.
Once all the times had been verified, it was confirmed. They had actually broken the course record by 53 seconds.
And the first of the Watersides was our first race in the K2. And although it went okay, it wasn't 100% perfect. It wasn't the best, but I think we were lucky there. We did end up with a record, which turns your confidence in the right direction. Come Waterside 2, we were just 2 weeks later, we were a whole lot better.
Waterside B was a bit of a surprise because everybody says you can't get the record without running back, and I'm thinking my legs are only quite short, so we're not running anywhere. And we actually took that by 4 minutes, which was where I started to think actually this is quite cool. Unfortunately, C I was injured for, but D we totally set out knowing that we were going to get the record. Like that, our training had been giving us a lot of confidence. The boat was running well, and everything came together perfectly on the day.
We'd done a long paddle a couple of weeks before that, or 3 weeks before that, that to be fair wasn't our best paddle, and that knocks your confidence back a bit. And Waterside 4, yeah, I mean, although we got tired like everyone else does, it never fell apart.
It was just nice for me I had the boat set up properly so that I didn't have any leg issues. It was the first time I was comfortable for the whole race, and I could just concentrate on pulling hard the whole way and emptying the tank. I don't know, it just all worked out. With 10 minutes off the record, you can't ask much more than that. That's when I actually...
11.
Is it 11?
No, 11's more than 10. I mean...
You're such a pain in the ass.
I'm just saying.
All right.
I mean,
Next time we'll take it by 11 minutes.
Because there's 11.
All right.
And
we'll do it again next year.
There's a load more after that as well.
Fine.
Right.
Can we do this interview separately now, please?
No, this is good.
Okay, fine.
This is working well. Ben Brown and Ivan Lawler are attempting to break the Devizes to Westminster course record. But while this will be Ben's first time, Ivan has taken part in the competition before, as a junior on the 4-day race.
There were 2 crews did the race that year, either of which could have won. It was quite in terms of racing, it was a good race. I can't say I enjoyed any of it, right from start to finish. We were uncomfortable, it was muddy and wet and cold, and it just didn't seem like the right thing to be doing at the time, but that's what we were doing. We set at it in the most professional way we could, and we made it, but it's taken me 25 years, maybe more, to even think of doing it again.
And throughout this time, he's been adamant that he would never try the senior race.
Not the non-stop, no, Christ no. And I never will, I never will. There's no earthly reason why anyone would do that. What's got me into it really is I've ended up supporting crews over the last 2 years by default, because they've known me and they've asked me to do it. And whereas I used to think, my opinion of the race of Devizes to Westminster is that it's not a great race, because it's not, it's a time trial essentially, and I'm a racer, I like to race people one-to-one, side by side. But having watched it for the last 2 years, what I've realised is it is just a challenge. Every single person who's doing it impresses me, whether they're doing it in 27 hours or 15 hours. Each one of them's got their own challenge. Everyone else in the race is pretty much irrelevant to them, and it's just really impressed me that there's that many people out there who are prepared to put themselves through that, and it's motivated me enough to want to have a go. And then the opportunity of doing it with someone good came along, so that's all added up to doing it.
Let's do it. Let's do one. The record is obviously a legendary record. It's in our sport particularly, and I don't take it lightly at all. I'm sure a lot of people were looking at this thinking, they think they're just going to bowl down the river and take the record. That's not my attitude towards it at all. I know it's going to be, even finishing the thing, it's going to be one of the hardest things I've ever done, if not the hardest thing. And that's the challenge for me. That's the bit I'm looking forward to, is what does it feel like to paddle after 6 hours when you've got another 9 hours to go?
I think coming out and saying we're doing the record was primarily, for me, I cannot train without a target. The target's not real unless it's out there. And normally my focus was a World Marathon Championship. Everyone knows when it is. It's fairly straightforward. It's there. It's set in stone. And I also don't think it's a mystery that we'd be going for the record. Why else would we be doing it? It's not. I don't know. People do it for fun, I'm sure, but it's not something I would do for fun. It's not fun. It's hard.
I think the thing that impresses me most about Ben and Ivan is that they've been brave enough to approach this from a completely different angle. I guess to many people who are involved in the DW, they're doing absolutely everything wrong. But also, the further into this we get, the more fascinating it becomes. We know for a fact there are at least 2 other crews who could potentially win this race. There's Richard Hendren and James King, who won last year and who are back for another shot. And then there's Tim Cornish, one of the men who actually holds the record, who's partnered with Ollie Harding, himself a former winner. But the thing is, we don't know when they're leaving. Whether they're going to be taking advantage of a daylight run like Ben and Ivan, or whether they're going to go on Saturday and paddle through the night. So it's going to be fascinating to see if Ben and Ivan can make the transition from racing people to racing the clock, all on their own. "6:15 Sunday morning. Devizes Wharf is pretty much deserted. Just really waiting for Ben and Ivan to arrive. They're going to be paddling down from their bed and breakfast as a means of warming up before they set off. But, as an added twist, arriving just about 5-10 minutes ago were Ollie Harding and Tim Cornish. So from what was seeming yesterday as a bit of a one-dimensional setup for this race, Hendren and Keane going off yesterday evening, obviously paddling their own race, possibly taking the tactic that they're looking for the win, and either presuming or hoping that Ben and Ivan are going to blow up because they've not paddled longer than 5 hours in a race. Now with Cornish and Harding showing up this morning, going for that daylight run, and by my reckoning they're going to be setting off probably no more than half an hour before Ben and Ivan. Now, what a tantalising chase down that could be.
3, 2, 1, good luck.
Then, right on cue, Ben and Ivan arrived at the start. Whether they'd seen Cornish and Harding leave was anyone's guess, but even if they had, it wasn't showing.
Save me from this place. Take the left, take the right, then you get out of this place.
The mood on the wharf was pretty relaxed. Ivan especially was on good form.
I don't want to go, okay? So I'm hanging about.
What time do you want to go?
Any time. I need
But the same couldn't be said for Ben, who was looking decidedly fragile. Maybe the enormity of what they were about to take on was coming home to him.
Save me from this place.
Normally, to have a chance of breaking the record, you'd need good flow on the Thames.
Take the left, take the right.
But there'd been practically no rainfall for the last few months, and the river was at a standstill. And with summer temperatures forecast, the weather wasn't playing ball either. But Ben and Ivan aren't the kind for backing out, so they just picked up the hand that was dealt them and got on with it. A few miles outside Devizes, we got our first glimpse of them passing the Bridge pub. After all the preparation, all the interest in their plan, I wondered how settled they were. "6 miles in, all Canning's Wharf would provide the support crew with the first opportunity to get down to water level and give Ben and Ivan some feedback on their pace.
About 5 minutes up, aren't they?
We're going to be 4 minutes up here, but 4 minutes was what they were up at Honey Street last on the Waterside 4.
Just before Pewsey Wharf, about 11 miles in, we came across Tim Cornish and Ollie Harding pushing on hard. This would give us a great chance to compare how they were getting on with Ben and Ivan, although it really was still early days. After 14.5 miles, a chance to stretch the legs and take on food at the first portage. What are they getting on this first stop, food-wise?
Some kind of
dunno.
banana-y peanut butter milkshake.
Some disgusting
Not that
stuff.
awful banana peanut butter.
Yeah, with the goodness shake.
I'm going a bit above the line.
No, just to the
He's-
right.
No,
He said
it's
above.
above.
He said
Granddad, it's
above because he can't finish it. This is Ivan's food and Ivan's anti-inflammatory.
You reckon it's worth getting someone on that gate?
Yeah.
With the long pound behind them, there wouldn't be another uninterrupted stretch of water now until they reached Teddington. But in this moment, they're probably just enjoying being out of the boat for a few minutes. This was also a key moment for the support crew, who needed to get the portage regime off to a smooth start. Until now, they'd just been spectators, but from here on in, they'd be an integral part of the record attempt.
One of these. Can I try and ride the paddles?
Yeah.
Drinking a bit more, Brownie, alright? I want to see more drink.
Glass and drink going.
Okay. 46. 146.
Just past Little Bedwin, at about 22 miles, Cornish and Harding was still going strong. But the gap was closing, and Ben and Ivan were portaging like a dream. Finally, as they reached Hungerford Common after 26.5 miles, they caught and passed Cornish and Harding just before the portage. Once into Newbury, the boys were in completely uncharted territory. All the previous Waterside races had finished in the town, but this time they had to keep going. And from this point onwards, they'd be going longer than either of them had ever gone before. To make the task harder, the sun was now fully out and temperatures were rising fast. Passing through Reading, they just had a quick blast past the Oracle Centre before completing the canal run and breaking out onto the Thames in just 7 hours and 2 minutes. Approaching the compulsory portage at Dreadnought Reach, everything seemed to be going just to plan. Their pace had dropped slightly, but they were still well on target for the record. But was there a problem with the boat?
Yeah, we need Dad to have a look at the foot.
Right, you're going past the cone. Okay, past the cone on the bank. Past the cone.
Got to be off Ben's footrest somewhere.
Guys! Well done, Ivan. Keep going, mate.
Bring it off somewhere. Don't butt me, just have a look.
With the loose nut proving to be a false alarm, it was time to crack on, after just a brief pause for some more liquid food and encouragement from all the people who gathered to watch them go through. With the canal now behind them, this is where the record bid would really play out. With so much of the Thames Riverside being privately owned, it would now be really hard for us to keep in regular contact with them. I was also really keen to see them in action on the river, not just in Portage. So we headed straight to Henley for our next stop. But the bank holiday traffic had other plans, and we had to ditch Henley in favour of Marlow, just to be sure we didn't miss them going through while we tried to find somewhere to park. Well, I've been standing here under Marlow Bridge for getting on for about an hour now, just trying to figure out in my own mind how long it's going to take them to get here from Reading, because let's face it, that's the last time we saw them, not being able to get anywhere close to the river at Henley, in fact having to abandon Henley completely. So, getting a little bit nervous if I'm honest. It feels like a long time, and not having seen them at all since Reading, I've got no handle at all on how they're getting on. Are they still okay? Are they paddling strongly? Have they slowed? It feels like a long time, but that's just me standing here waiting. So hopefully they'll be here soon and be able to get a check of what their stroke rate's like. Do they still look strong? Do they still look like they're powering along? And are they still in contention for the record? That's the most important thing. When they finally came into sight at Marlow, they looked really slow. But that was just because they were negotiating pleasure boats on their way to the bridge. And as they passed underneath and on towards the lock, their pace looked much more encouraging. But at our next checkpoint at Cookham, it was a different story altogether, and it looked to me as if it was all over. Their stroke rate had really dropped, and it looked like they were cruising. As they drew closer, our fears were confirmed.
Can you go down to the weir? Can you bring us up at the weir? No, I need to go for a swim. See you at the weir.
In a rather spooky twist, this moment seemed to have been prophesied earlier that morning back in Devizes.
Have you sorted out Cookham?
Oh yeah.
We're at Cookham.
Vicious rumours that doing the weir at Cookham's okay. We underestimated how nervous we were this morning and had all that food. Yeah. And then they never settled.
My belly was like that until I threw it up, and it was such relief.
Yeah. It was. Well, just wasn't the right day for it, oh man. Something clean. Yeah, that's a good point. I walked off crying, I can't open it.
I've just informed race control, so we're officially off the river.
I ain't getting back on it.
this young couple with the baby, Ivan chucking up pretty much all over them. It was like, oh,
Like a shock. I've pretty much never been so nervous in my whole life. There was a stage where I think we had a couple of minutes before the start, and I said, if we don't start now, I'm going to throw up. So we just started.
Yeah. Races you normally do, you know you've got to be good, you know you've got to be on your game. But you know it all. It's something you understand, and you use the nerves as a positive thing, really. But the nerves for this, it wasn't, I don't think, it's more fear than nerves. Fear of what? I don't know. The unknown, isn't it? It's just, yeah, you know it's going to be hard. You know it's going to be painful, I think. And the pain's not in your control. In the normal races we do, the pain's in your control. You go harder if you can tolerate it, and you don't go harder if you can't. But here, it's just, we set off, and yeah.
I think I had too much for breakfast, and then a pint of the gloop also for breakfast. And then that combined with nerves and constant flow of electrolyte drink on top of it, it was all just sitting in a big food baby in my stomach, and after a couple of hours it just all came up. I felt fantastic afterwards, but knowing in my head that that's all my energy that I've just thrown back up into the canal, that's going to come back to haunt me.
I don't know, I had a sore wrist going into it, and the wrist starts hurting, it, and everything hurts more when you're on a down, you know. When you're on an up, things don't hurt too much, but when you start to get on a down, everything hurts that little bit more. So yeah, I think, yeah, I'm not disappointed at all in what we did today. We gave that a good shot, but there's a couple of disappointments from my aspect, that first 30 minutes, and the fact that I think probably we stopped because I caved in. The fact is, I don't think we couldn't go the right speed to carry on, and that was just, that ground me down.
From the off, it's always been about the record, and obviously it's really disappointing not to have finished the race, because that was kind of the plan B goal. If all is lost record-wise, then finishing the race is the next goal. And I think I wouldn't have been satisfied if we hadn't have given it everything for that first canal section and really gone for the record. And I'm disappointed, obviously, not to have finished the race, because it's such an epic event. And I can't remember the last time I didn't finish a race. And so that's quite hard to deal with. But at the same time, then you look back and you just think, well, had I not gone so hard, we wouldn't have even been, because we were up on the record for quite a significant chunk of it, and I'm happy with that. So
with the lack of flow, which we knew there was, that was fine. I could deal with that. But to do the next 3 hours into a headwind, where you knew that actually, even when I'm pulling hard and we're going really well, we're not going fast enough. Everyone had those conditions, and you know, there are people who've finished and they finished very well, and they are, I'm going to say, they're tougher than me, but also their goal was different to ours.
Yeah, I think it's got to be said that our support crew was spot on as well today, and quite a lot of hands on deck, and everybody achieved what we wanted them to achieve, and there was no real dramas. We minimalised the swearing, and
yeah, sorry about that.
Maximised the throwing up.
Yeah. People need to know that record is doable, so that somebody will go and have a pop at it. So we had our pop at it and we failed, but I have come out of that with the knowledge that that record is there for the taking. You just got to be a bit luckier than we were today. Yeah, I could cope with a banana. Yeah, you do this and your season is over. Now, did I not tell you that? Oh, yeah, we'll cover that in a minute.
Need a wee.
Dog alert. Get this cat away from me. Off you go, cat.
Get out of it.
I'm allergic to long-haired cats. Get it away from me, Ben. Get it away from me. Get there.
Oh, it smells.
Get that
It smells.
Coming in my cockpit.